Welcome back to the Shortcut from the Iron Edge. I'm Ken Nowitzki. Your perception is not your reality. It's the topic for this week's discussion. And you might be sitting here saying, well, Ken, that sounds quite contradictory to other things you've said in the past where, I have said, and I do believe, that your perception is your reality. But there's two sort of defining parts of this. And that's what I'm realizing a bit more in my old age, so to speak, with a bit of wisdom. For a long time, my outlook was, and it still somewhat is, that your perception is reality. And the reason I developed that sort of mindset and outlook was due to strongman. And the reason for that is, say you got a car deadlift hold. If you can put your mind somewhere else and your perception of the event or of that period of time to somewhere nice, so that it's a very easy thing to do and there's no pain involved, and you're just standing there, no big deal, standing holding some groceries, whatever. If you can change your perception of where you're at, you can change the reality. And you might steal an extra 5-10 seconds in the event just by that sort of mindset shift, that visualization, so to speak. I also believe that if you're going through a hard time in life, that you can change your perception of things and reframe it. Instead of sitting here being like, oh, well, I have to train today. Fuck, I have to train today. No, the reframe, I get to train today. Now you've got a positive. It's not, life isn't all negative all the time. So there's another one of, hey, the perception that you create within your own mind can become a different reality and change how you interact with your life or the world or people around you and all that sort of stuff. Now, where I'm going with this is that conversely, we all have some of these negative thoughts where you sit here and say, oh, well, fuck. Life is so difficult. Life is so bad. Or for me, this is the one I want to talk about. For me, no one gives a fuck that I'm going to compete again. Why am I bothering to put a post out or document this and make a big deal of it? Because no one gives a fuck. You're a washed up guy that won Scotland's Strongest Man, and you're pretty good, in your day. But shit, that was, coming on 15 years ago. No one gives a fuck. Well, that's my perception of it. Reality is something different, because I've had an absolutely awesome response to some of the posts I've put out about coming back, about the reasons why I want to come back, the things I want to chase, the dreams that I still have in my head that I want to achieve, and people saying, yeah, dude, fucking awesome. Like get it, fucking chase it. All these different things, or the guys over there that are competing in Scotland's Strongest Man currently, have been very kind with stuff like, hey, really looking forward to competing with you. Chris Beetham reached out and said, hey, dude, I came in right after you and people spoke highly of you. I'm excited to compete with you. I was like, oh, wow. Okay. That's sort of fucking cool. The other one, talking of documenting this, is that 2 weeks ago, I was deadlifting 495 for triples, and they were really, really, really fucking hard. And I sat there and I said, holy shit, I have so much work in front of me. So much work that I don't even know if this is possible. I sat in rejigged training with a very close friend, Ken McClelland. We went through some stuff, rejigged the training plan, and I deadlifted last week, and it was night and day. It felt like I wedged into my first rep at 495, and I was already halfway standing up. And I was like, whoa, what the fuck happened there? Again, your perception of how something's going to go isn't the reality. The perception of how people view it or how people interact with you isn't the fucking reality. And that's something that is really difficult at times to sort of wrap your head around and actually lean into, contradicting viewpoints. And that's why I started out saying the first part where this is my viewpoint and this is what I have been sort of living, this sort of outlook or not outlook, but yeah, outlook. Outlook is a perfect way to put it. Having that outlook that however you want to view life or make life or whatever is the way you can do it. Now, obviously, I could sit here and say, like, oh, well, I'm a millionaire. I'm a millionaire. I'm a millionaire. That's not going to fucking change them. I ain't going to have $1 million in the bank tomorrow. You know what I mean? So obviously there's limits to it, but there's ways to really change and rewire your brain so effectively that it's not even funny on both aspects of it. From going from, instead of viewing everything from a negative perspective, from viewing things as a negative perspective, and then realizing that people do care and that there's positivity there, and sort of shifting that. And then the other side of stuff, changing things into positives. I think a lot of us get up in the morning and we sit and we say, fuck, gotta go to work today. Gotta do this today. Gotta do that today. Need to walk the dog. I'm sure there's going to be a hell of a lot of us that can relate to what I'm going to say next. And that is that one day you ain't going to get to walk the dog. So why the fuck bitch about it? Why see it as a negative? You get to walk your dog. You get to be active. You get to interact with this creature that loves you unconditionally. You get to be in nature and relax and disassociate, disconnect from technology and all the rest of it. One of my biggest pet peeves is I'll be out walking the dog in the forest and someone's walking past playing music on their phone. And it's like, guy, can you not just switch the fuck off from technology for half an hour and just be? I think so many of us could really gain something from just being. So back to my thing, back to your perception is not your reality. It goes every way. And I'll give you some great examples for that are evident in my life. Going back to that deadlifting thing, coming into last week's session, I was like, holy shit, I have so much work to do. This is almost an unfathomable task to sort of approach this challenge. And then I left the gym a few days ago after last week's session going, wow, okay, well, shit. I could have actually probably pulled this for triple today, probably pulled this for 1 or 2 reps. Well, that's shit. That means I've only got, 120 pounds left to go instead of 200 pounds. Really changes things, really shifts my mentality to the point where I'm like, oh, wow. I've been sitting here with a lot of nervousness is maybe not the right word, but just anxiety, I suppose, about this task and this endeavor. And it's incredible to me just how in the space of an hour or 2 hours, the entire thing shifts. And if we can practice some of these things in our daily lives of, someone cuts you off in traffic. Now, granted, I ain't good at this. I'll say that. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Okay, fuck it. Now, do I want to fucking honk my horn and call an asshole? Yeah, of course I fucking. And I'm trying not to. But just that little shift changes the day, changes how you approach the world, changes how you approach your own life. And, just think about these things. I really enjoy this podcast because it lets me sort of spew my thoughts out a little bit. And I'm getting better at maybe putting them more in depth and giving examples of these things and where this has come up in my life before and how I've shifted patterns and all that. But this podcast allows me to sort of spew my thoughts out there. And I would love for you all to sit and think about some of these little nuances of life and how such a small perspective shift can really change your thinking and change your entire perception and reality of your situation, whether it's a negative situation to a positive. So just these little things, like don't get stuck on thinking nobody cares, because I'll tell you, no matter what you are doing, you will find at least one person in the world that actually genuinely gives a fuck about what you're doing. And it's invigorating. With that said, and those thoughts spewed, I hope you think about this. I'll catch you on the next one.